In June 2003, China's gold reserves increased by about 23 tons, reaching nearly 2,330 tons. At first glance, this may seem like a normal and repetitive news item, but in reality, this news is worth pausing for two reasons. First, this is the 8th consecutive month that China's gold reserves have increased. Recently, the Chinese have been buying gold like crazy. Between November 2022 and June 2023, the Chinese increased their reserves by 183 tons. Second, and this is more important, no one knows exactly where the Chinese are storing their gold. Do they keep it in the vaults of the People's Bank of China or in vaults controlled by the Chinese military? Nobody knows. For example, we know that Americans, British, and Russians keep their gold reserves in known places. This information is public and available. However, the Chinese are completely tight-lipped about this matter. The only known fact about the location of Chinese gold reserves is that all of it is stored within China. Unlike many central banks that keep a large portion of their gold reserves in New York and London, recently this situation has begun to change. The Western sanctions imposed on the Russian central bank have led many global central banks to withdraw their gold from America and Britain and store it on their own soil. This is because they feared experiencing the same fate as Russia. Historically, America and Britain have been the safe haven for foreign central bank reserves. However, the sanctions imposed on the Russian central bank made central banks realize the dangers of leaving their wealth at the mercy of foreigners. How did the world reach this point, and why have global central banks recently been buying gold in large quantities? What is the fate of Russia's gold reserves? Could America and Europe ever seize them? This is what we will discuss in today's episode. In 1990, the Soviet Union's economy was in the worst state with inflation, recession, unemployment, debts, and shortages of goods. People were standing in lines outside stores. It was complete chaos. At that time, Western analysts estimated that the Soviet government's gold reserves ranged between 1,500 to 2,000 tons, a figure that many Soviet economists believed was accurate and logical, even though no official data on Soviet gold reserves was available. The data on gold reserves had been secret and not announced since 1936. So, this situation continued, with no one knowing anything. Everyone was guessing numbers, until the Soviet Central Bank or the Soviet Central Bank revealed the following year that their gold reserves as of the end of June 1991 were 374 tons. The figure was so shocking and unexpected that Western economists did not believe it. They thought the Soviets must have kept some gold aside. It was unthinkable that the Soviets could have lost over 1,500 tons of gold in such a short time. Where did all this wealth go? People found out the answer about 3 months before the collapse of the Soviet Union, specifically on September 27, 1991. On that day, Gregory Yavlinsky, the deputy chairman of the Soviet Economic Committee, said that the country's gold reserves had dropped again. On that day, Gregory Yavlinsky, the deputy chairman of the Soviet Economic Committee, said that the country's gold reserves had dropped again, now standing at 240 tons, worth $2.7 billion. This meant a loss of 134 tons in just 3 months, which was shocking and required an explanation because we are talking about the Soviet Union, which was then one of the world's largest gold producers. Gold reserves are known to be a strategic asset, and all countries are very careful to preserve them.